Hi there. I am like a minute late. Sorry about that. After I did all that prep and trying to make sure all the technology was working and everything, and then I ended up missing one of the settings right as I was getting ready to start. So anyway, I'm glad you're here. If you're joining me live, that is way cool because I have a hard time just talking to my camera, to my phone, to whatever video recording device I'm using. So just the thought that you're out there really, really helps me. Um, I'm not good enough at the technology yet to be able to manage comments and things that you make. I'm not even sure I could tell if you're there. So, how funny is that? But anyway, that's one of the things that happens when you really want to reach more women and you're of a certain age and you're also a little bit of a techie. So you try anything. If anybody wants to jump in and help me with any of this stuff, that'd be really cool. I would welcome your input and your direction. So, anyway, as I promised, today I'm going to talk to you about 3 common deceptions that most women fall for when it comes to men. And I'm doing this from a biblical perspective, but also from a psychological perspective. The biblical part of this is the lying part. You know, there's so much deception, so much lying in the world. There always has been since the very beginning when the serpent lied to Eve in the garden. He deceived her into believing that she could eat the forbidden fruit and nothing would happen. But, we all know this side of the fall that that's just not true. That, in fact, since that time, we as women have been in a constant battle with the enemy himself, and he wants to lead us into any kind of deception that's going to separate us from the people that we love, separate us from the people we care about, separate us from one another. So we always want to be really aware of those things that are just not true. And the tricky part is they're not true, but they seem true and they feel true because you're looking at the external evidence for that and totally missing that there's a truth that goes deeper about who a person is. We're all so incredibly, incredibly unique. There are some things that men have in common, and there are things that women have in common. But when it comes down to it, it's really about the individual because there's more differences from individual to individual than there is from group to group, such as men to women. So, yeah, we all want to be loved, we all want to be respected, but we kind of lean more towards the love idea if we're female and more towards the respect idea if we're male, but we still both need love and respect. That's pretty clear, right? And oftentimes we misunderstand one another because we are falling for these deceptions or lies, straight up lies from the enemy of our soul. We fall for them and we behave accordingly. And how we see the problem that's going on, if we're only looking at the surface and we draw a conclusion based on, this deception, then we're going to behave very differently if we get to know a person on a one-on-one and think about what are some other explanations for what you're seeing in external behavior. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense so far. That's kind of where we're going, where I'm leading off with this. Just know that there's more to every person than just what you see on the surface, including me. And that's one of the things that I've been trying to do a lot lately, is to actually be much more vulnerable and open with you all about my own process. I know in my book I was pretty open, but when you go into the video realm and social media and such, then not everybody's read that background. So, I want you to know that I don't think I've got it all together. I'm learning just like you are. And in that process, as I learn something new, I want to share it with you. Now, a lot of the information that I have when it comes to men is based on studying them, in college, in graduate school, and then in my clinical practice as well. And working through all of that stuff, I've learned a ton of things about people, and especially about men. Men will tell me things when there are no women around, and this is true of men in a group as well as men individually. They will say things to me they would never say to their wives. At one point I actually had a wife get really angry at her husband in the middle of a session, and she looked at him, and then she looked at me and she goes, "Why will he talk to you and he won't talk to me?" And I said, "That's an easy answer. I'm not his wife. If I say something he doesn't like or something that hurts him, he doesn't ever have to come back again. He can tune me out, he can move on. But you are much more valuable to him." And that's why he's much more careful about what he wants to share with you. And I'm going to come back to this idea next week, because we're actually going to do another live seminar on what men won't say that women need to know. All right, so we're going to do that one. I'm going to try it on Zoom, and I'm going to try to pour it into Facebook. I mentioned that in my last little video clip when I was doing a sound check. But anyway, I just want you to put that on your calendar, and I'm going to add it to the events here in Facebook, as well as have it on other social media channels. And I want to try in as many women as I can for that. So, spread the word, help people know that there is good information coming. Okay, so we set up the foundation for that. There is a lot of deception in the world, that there's a lot of things that men don't tell us, but somehow I've kind of gotten an insider's viewpoint on what life is like for men, and I want to share that with you. So, the first of our 3 lies that I want to talk about today is the lie of pride. Everybody knows that men do not ask for directions. They rarely ask for help. They try to figure it out on their own, and if you challenge them, sometimes they get very defensive. And on the outside, that looks very much like pride. I mean, I think I thought that for a very long time too. But then when I get to talking to guys one-on-one, what I learned is they're actually really afraid of being wrong. And the reason they're so afraid of being wrong is that the shame that comes with that, starting as a very young boy, they get shamed for messing up. Now, in the past, I've blamed a lot of that on coaches and how hard they are on boys in sports. But, if you've listened to Brene Brown at all, I hope you picked up the clip from her when she had a conversation with a man at a book signing. And I'll put a link to that down below. But basically what the man told her was that he didn't get all the shame from his coaches and other men. Most of that shame came from the women in his life. And that makes them not willing to be vulnerable. The sad part is that we don't even know what it is that we're doing that is shaming to them. Sometimes we can be on the end of trying to be very encouraging, and what it turns into is that we're actually giving advice. And when a woman gives a man advice, what she's saying to him, what his heart hears, is, "You are so stupid. You need a woman to tell you how to do this. So just listen to me and you'll get it right, because you are incapable. You are totally inadequate." Now, that's not what we think we're saying at all. Not even close. We're trying to be encouraging. We're trying to give him some alternate ideas. We're trying to open a discussion. But because of his biology and his environment, the way that he was trained to be a man actually goes counter to that idea of, asking for help. I don't know that guys even ask each other for help all that much. They really could benefit from doing that for sure, but it violates one of the number one rules of masculinity, which is don't be weak. Don't be weak. And if you appear to be weak, then you're letting everybody know that you are totally inadequate, that you're a total failure. So, what do you do if a guy is stubborn and he won't listen to you, to your feedback? He won't listen to your encouragement. What do you do? Well, you got to understand that it's coming from this idea of shame. And you really want to start off with validating his effort and understanding what his approach is. So you could say something like, wow, I can see that you're really concerned about X. And it seems like what you're doing is this. Is that right? Is that what you're doing? And ask him for feedback. Ask him to tell you what his thought processes are. And if he starts to tell you, he starts talking, then listen and play back what you hear him say. So your approach to this problem is that you're going to do A, B, and C because D, E, F, and did I get that right? You wait and you listen more than you talk, ladies. It's huge. If you really want to get the guy to talk, you got to understand that he's not going to offer things if you interrupt him. Give him time. Give him space. You can certainly ask questions, but track where he's going, not where you think you should go. Once you feel like you have it understood where he's coming from and validated that it makes sense looking at it from that point of view, then you come back along and you go, I as a woman, I have a different viewpoint on that. And you say it kindly and you don't tell him what it is. Because what you really want him to do is you want him to go, well, what are you thinking? We want to be to the point where we're not shaming him, but instead we're inviting him into the process of a dialogue with us. It's very, very important to learn how to do that. And I just can't stress it enough that listening is a primary issue. Listening to understand. And then letting him know that you do have a different point of view as a woman. How you phrase that is really important. If you say, well, that's not what I think, he's going to shut down because it feels very shaming. Or if you say, well, I think you should just do this, this, and this. And ladies, we might actually be right, but the way we deliver that can bring shame to him, which will make him either shut down or get angry. And we don't want either one of those to happen, right? Okay, so the first lie that we just covered is the lie that men are full of pride. It's interesting that the enemy would choose pride because that's actually his issue. Somebody said that God created us in his image and the devil has been trying to make us over in his ever since the garden. So, he was the one that was prideful. He's the one that thought he could be equal to God, which is how he got cast out of heaven in the first place, right? So he takes that pride of his own and projects it onto human beings, often men, sometimes women, but projects it onto men as a primary way of deceiving everyone around him into not listening to him, into dismissing him because he's just a prideful jerk. Okay? Now, I got to tell you, there are guys that have issues with pride. I'm not saying that none of them do, but it's not because they're male. It's more than likely because they have a little bit of narcissism going on, maybe a lot of narcissism going on, And that's a whole different topic for a whole nother day. Most men are not narcissists, but they have been shamed. Okay, so boy, we have a lot to talk about. I'm not going to be able to cover all of it today. All right, so let's move on. Number 2, men are insensitive. Yeah, I can't even tell you what a shock this was to me, because I grew up believing that men and boys did not even have feelings. They didn't experience emotions at all because they never displayed them. They always looked blank. And so part of my approach, especially as a teenager, was to try to poke, to get a response out of a guy. And the more I poked, the more he shut down. Okay, so really important to understand that that is a lie from the pit of hell. In fact, men are actually way more sensitive. Yes, I said that. Way more sensitive than women are to social and emotional. So that's relational and internal emotions than even a woman is. Now, I know that that may ring true for some of you. Some of you may have noticed it, whereas others think, wow, that is so not who I see men to be. But what happens is that from the moment of birth, baby boys are more sensitive than baby girls. It's research has been done on that. If you'd like the reference, let me know. I will get it to you. But that baby boys are actually more sensitive than baby girls. They laugh more and coo more, but they also cry more, and they're harder to soothe. So what happened? Why did he turn out to be this way as an adult? What happened to that sensitivity? Well, it got shamed out of him for the most part. Okay, the process of developing into a boy, from a baby to a boy to a man, shame is a huge factor that gets him not to display his vulnerability. Remember, the number one thing is don't be weak. So he invests a lot of his energy in appearing to be strong even when he doesn't feel like it. And it starts by the time he enters kindergarten. The first thing that happens is that, his verbal expressions disappear, and then his facial expressions disappear. And he learns to be a blank slate, so nobody will know how scared he is, how inadequate he feels. Wow, this was just like the biggest, most surprising thing that I ever learned about men, because I didn't think it was true. Even after having been married and divorced, I still didn't know that. It wasn't until I got into graduate school and started really studying men at an academic level, and I'm hearing all of these things, and I'm going, huh? That doesn't sound right. Probably like some of you do. It is like, this just can't be true. This woman is nuts, right? But it's there, and I've seen it in couples counseling over and over and over again, that men are incredibly sensitive. Now, I gotta say, they're sensitive to different things than women are. Women are more sensitive to getting their feelings hurt. Men are more sensitive to things that attack their identity and produce a sense of shame and guilt. It's shame and guilt are a whole nother topic we can talk about another day as well, because there are some distinctions there. But primarily, the feeling guilty is more like shame, where guilt itself is just like, I did it. It's just more of a legal term, if you will, than an emotional pain. So, if you've done something wrong and you sense guilt, you may feel a little shame, but you feel like you can go ahead and correct it. Someone who's deep in shame feels like there's nothing they can do to repair whatever it is that went wrong. Okay? So what do you do? Oh, I hope I didn't lose all of you, because my internet just flickered. So I'm hoping it's still going. But anyway, what do we do with the idea that, he's more sensitive? What do we do with that? Well, you got to realize he's sensitive to different things than you are. So we said that, I said that already, got a little thrown off by the internet glitch. Sorry about that. But you need to learn what kinds of things bring him shame and what kinds of things he's sensitive to. And this is somewhat, it's across the board for men, but in some other ways, it's unique to each individual man. So getting to know yours is the most important. You don't have to know all of them. You just have to know yours. Man, I have like gotten to know so many men over the years, and they are so different. They're so unique. No two guys are exactly alike, but when you learn to watch for the patterns and you learn to watch for the truth about what's going on behind the external behavior, then you can see it and you respond to it differently. So, if you know that a guy's feeling really hurt, you're not going to yell at him, right? You're not going to continue to go over and over and over the things that bug you when he's feeling shame. Instead, you're going to approach it from a kinder point of view, and you go, when I really liked it when you did this. When you did that, it kind of hurt, but I love it when you do that. You see what I just did? I did a positive and a negative and a positive, with the emphasis on the positive, because men really respond very well to positive feedback, much more so from women than they do from the negative, that you're a screw up, you need to buck up, you need to man up, oh gosh, you need to grow up. Just so many things that women say to men that are counterproductive. So I really want you to be able to avoid those things. I'm just going to check the time real quick. Looks like we're doing good on time. I actually set apart a whole hour to do this. However, we're going to be done when we're done. And that's how I write my books. That's how I write my blog posts. That's how I do my videos, is that when I'm done, I'm done. I don't have a set time to do that. Kind of that way in my live workshops as well, that I'll stay with the topic until I've covered the topic, and then we open for discussion, and then we may take a break, and then we go back and I've got the next part that I want to teach you. So 8 years as a university professor really taught me that the most important thing is to keep the audience engaged. When you've got a whole room full of 19-year-olds who'd rather be doing something else, you learn how to engage an audience. So anyway, I'm rambling, not staying engaged, am I? Okay, so we're down to point number 3, and that is that women believe that men are afraid of commitment. We've been told that over and over again. Oh, he's just afraid of commitment. Better move on to somebody else. Or maybe you can fix him. Maybe you can get him to be okay with commitment. And I gotta tell you, I really think that's a lie. I don't think men are afraid of commitment. I think they want commitment. They really want commitment. But there are 2 things that get in their way. One of them is a fear of losing their freedom. Who wants to be constantly monitored and watched after and to be micromanaged, which is one of the things that was part of the curse in the beginning when Adam and Eve were in the garden, right? It was that Eve would try to fix, manage, and control her husband, and he was going to resist her. We have that going on all the time, don't we? So no guy wants to sign up for that. So whether it's you that he doesn't want to lose his freedom to, or it's a history of losing his freedom in the past, both of those things can keep him from making that final commitment to be married, or to buy a home, or to have children, or to do things that are going to take away that freedom. The other thing that is huge, I mentioned 2. The second one is a fear of being hurt. Most men, by the time they reach kindergarten, have been hurt a lot. And if you are in love with a man who has been traumatized and has any pain in the past, if he's had abusive parents, if he's been bullied. That's a huge one too. And if another woman has done things to shame him or to put him down or to hurt him. And probably the worst one there is when a man has had a woman cheat on him in the past. That, believe it or not, it's actually easier for women to move beyond that when a husband has betrayed than when a man has been betrayed by his wife. And I think it goes back to that idea of how sensitive that men really are to those kinds of things. I mean, rejection is hard. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that some of my own rejection issues came up, and maybe that's part of the reason that I've avoided, being more on social media. I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to be criticized. I don't want to be dinged, but we're all going to get it. We got to figure out how to move beyond that. And turning around and shaming someone else is not going to help us do any better. In fact, it's going to make it worse. I highly recommend Dr. Brene Brown's information on shame and vulnerability. She does a really good job. Her research is awesome. So if you want to learn how to overcome shame, we can talk about that in another video. Or, if you're in a hurry, you can go ahead and check out Dr. Brene Brown. So I'll put a couple links to her videos also in the information below this one that you can get right to right away. So men are trying to avoid losing their freedom to someone who doesn't care about them, who's only, got her own issues in front of her and what she wants and what she desires. And it becomes like that Genesis 3 thing where she's trying to fix, manage, and control him to meet her needs. And it just doesn't work. It will backfire on you every single time. But he's also trying to avoid the pain. And the more trauma that a man has in his past, the more reluctant he's going to be to put himself out there and risk being hurt all over again. So anyway, there's our 3 things: pride, insensitivity, and a fear of commitment. Those are the 3 lies, the 3 deceptions that we were addressing today. And I hope that information is helpful to you. I appreciate you being here. If you're one of those folks that's here live, thank you for joining in and giving me a real person to talk to. And if you weren't and you're just watching the replay, then that's cool too. You can still make comments in the space below. I look forward to connecting with you. I'm going to be doing another live next Monday. It's what men won't say that women need to know. So that's the next video. But if you really want to talk to me one-on-one, I got to tell you, I've set up where you and I can do a one-on-one Zoom call. Nobody else around, just the 2 of us, and you can ask me any question you've got. I'll do my best to answer it or to help you figure out where to go to find an answer to your question. Okay? And that's a free 30-minute Zoom call, just you and I. Then there's this kind of extra fun thing that if you want to, you can bring along some of your girlfriends to do it. You could add up to 10 women to the Zoom call, and they'd all each get a link and be zeroed in, and we can just have a really good discussion for about 30 minutes. So that calendar is available online on my website. Again, I'll put the link down below for you. So we ended up going for about 30 minutes. That's pretty good. I didn't think I could talk for a whole hour without interaction, without feedback. And like I said, I can't watch the comments and do this at the same time. It's a blonde thing, I think. No offense to all the other blondes out there. But anyway, really, really good to be with you today. I look forward to interacting with you in the next few days, and for sure by next Monday. Tune in, and we'll see you then. Okay? Take care, and God bless you. Bye-bye.